Joanna, a 25-year-old woman, lives in a stable marriage full of plans with Paulo, her 28-year-old husband. They share a peaceful routine, but everything starts to change when Joanna receives a call from her mother, Marta, who is 49 years old and is facing financial difficulties after losing her job. Driven by concern, Joanna decides that the best solution is to bring Marta to live with them temporarily. Confident that Paulo will understand the gravity of the situation, she presents the idea enthusiastically during dinner. "Paulo, my mom is going through a tough time. I think we should help her," Joanna says firmly. However, Paulo hesitates. "Joanna, you know I care about her, but won't this change our dynamic as a couple? Having someone live with us isn't simple." The conversation takes a more serious tone, and Joanna tries to convince him by appealing to the emotional side. "Paulo, she's my mother. She's always helped me when I needed it. Now it's my turn to give back. It'll only be for a while." After several discussions and reflections, Paulo reluctantly agrees. "All right, Joanna. Let's try, but I hope it really is temporary." With the decision made, Marta begins to pack her things to move in. However, what seemed like an altruistic and necessary gesture was about to trigger a series of events that no one could have predicted. Marta, Joanna's mother, arrives at the couple's home with a luggage full of promises of a temporary stay. She is warm, friendly, and soon starts bonding with Paulo, seemingly charmed by his energy. At first, everything seems to go well. Marta helps with cleaning, prepares some dishes for dinner, and even offers to do small household chores, trying to ease Joanna and Paulo's daily burden. But over time, living together begins to reveal its difficulties. Marta's constant presence creates an unexpected tension in the house. Paulo starts to feel that he no longer has privacy. He tries to find moments to be alone with Joanna, but Marta, always pleasant and engaging, seems to be around all the time. "Paulo, can you help me here in the kitchen?" Marta asks with a smile. "Of course," he replies, trying to be polite, but the feeling of discomfort begins to grow. He feels like he's starting to distance himself from Joanna, but he still can't quite understand the exact reason. Joanna, on the other hand, is so focused on making sure her mother feels welcome that she doesn't notice the small changes in Paulo's behavior. She justifies Marta's actions, saying that she only wants to help, that it's her way of returning the care she received in the past. As time goes by, Marta becomes more present, eating with the couple, watching TV with Paulo, making comments about the house's decoration, and even suggesting changes to the couple's habits. Everything seemed to have good intentions, but something didn't feel right. Paulo feels increasingly pressured. He begins to wonder if bringing Marta to live with them was a mistake. But, to avoid more conflict with Joanna, he keeps these feelings to himself. The tension starts to rise when Marta begins to show an excessive interest in the conversations she has with Paulo. She frequently compliments him, saying how much stronger, more handsome, and more responsible he's become. These words, which initially seem harmless, start to affect Paulo in ways he didn't expect. "You have great posture, Paulo. I've always said Joanna made a good choice," she says, smiling in a suggestive way. He tries to look away, uncomfortable, but Marta continues with her compliments. Meanwhile, Joanna, completely unaware of this dynamic, tries to keep the peace at home. She's happy to be able to help her mother and believes that soon everything will return to normal. But the truth is, while she focuses on caring for her mother, her relationship with Paulo begins to wear thin, and Marta's presence, far from being temporary, starts to take up more and more space in the couple's life. The relationship between Paulo and Marta continues to intensify, but in a subtle way. Marta's compliments become more frequent, and although Paulo tries to distance himself, he can't avoid the feelings that begin to arise. Marta, increasingly persuasive, knows exactly how to manipulate situations to get closer to him. During dinners, when Paolo loses himself in his own thoughts, Marta takes the opportunity to get closer, touching his shoulder or placing her hand on his leg in an unexpected way. "You've been so thoughtful, Paolo. How do you manage to be so patient with all of this?" she says in a soft voice. These words provoke an unexpected reaction in Paolo. The line between what's right and wrong begins to fade, and he feels an increasing attraction to his mother-in-law, something he never imagined before. No matter how much Paolo tries to rationalize, the tension between them grows. In a moment of weakness, he ends up giving in to desire. A simple touch turns into something more, and the relationship between mother-in-law and son-in-law becomes marked by secretive meetings and hidden displays of affection. They find each other in the kitchen, the bathroom, or any moment when Joanna isn't around. Paolo feels guilty, but the attraction he feels for Marta is overwhelming. Meanwhile, Joanna, completely unaware of what's happening between the two, tries to keep the harmony in the house. She feels that something is off, but she can't identify what. Paolo has been distancing himself, and Marta, although helping with some things, has been acting strangely and mysteriously. The secret meetings between Paolo and Marta become bolder. They meet in the bathroom, always with the excuse of needing to talk or resolve something urgent. With each meeting, Paolo's guilt grows, but the attraction seems to be stronger. He no longer knows how to get out of this spiral. The situation reaches a critical point when Joanna starts noticing changes in Paolo's behavior. He becomes more sarcastic, distant, and, in some situations, even nervous. She starts to suspect that something isn't right, but she still has no concrete proof. Even without knowing, Joanna begins to watch the two of them, trying to find answers to the signs she feels but can't understand. The tension peaks one night when Joanna, feeling uncomfortable, decides to check what's happening in the house. She hears noises coming from the bathroom and, as she gets closer, sees something she never imagined finding: Paolo and Marta, in an intimate and compromising moment. The impact of the discovery is devastating for Joanna. She is paralyzed, not knowing what to do, silently watching the moment when Paolo and Marta, in their betrayal, don't notice her presence. The shock is so overwhelming that she can hardly believe what she's seeing. The love and trust she had given to these two people crumble in an instant. Joanna falls into despair. She screams, her eyes filled with tears. "How could you do this? How could you, Paolo, betray me with my own mother?" The pain in her voice is palpable, a mixture of anger, sadness, and confusion. She feels betrayed by the two people she loved and trusted the most. Paolo, visibly embarrassed, tries to explain, but his words no longer hold any value. He knows the fault is his, but he can't apologize enough. "Joanna, I never imagined this would happen. I was weak, I don't know what happened. Marta." He tries to explain, but the words won't come out. He is completely defenseless, with no justification that can erase the mistake he made. Marta, on the other hand, remains indifferent, as if nothing had happened. "Joanna, this happened because you weren't paying attention. I've always been very close to Paolo. It's not your fault, but you never gave me the attention I deserve." She tries to justify herself, but Marta's words only increase Joanna's pain. She feels humiliated, not only by the betrayal but by her mother's coldness. The house that once seemed like a home is now just a scene of pain and destruction. Joanna makes a difficult and painful decision. She looks at Paolo, who is trying to get closer to her, but she pushes him away. "You are no longer the person I trusted. I don't know if I can continue with you, Paolo," she says, her voice trembling, but firm. Slowly, she begins to distance herself. Martha, feeling uncomfortable, tries to justify herself once more, but Joanna, too drained to continue the conversation, simply says, "Leave, Mom. I can't live with you anymore." Joanna's decision is final. She no longer wants anyone who has broken her trust. After that night, Joanna's life changes forever. She decides to separate from Paulo and finally distances herself from Martha. She reflects on how her relationship was marked by betrayal, but also on how she had to learn to put herself first. Paulo, regretful, tries to redeem himself, but Joanna is no longer willing to go back. She rebuilds herself, learning the lesson that, no matter how strong love is, trust is the foundation of everything. Martha, for her part, leaves Joanna's house without looking back, leaving behind the wreckage of a relationship that will never be the same. The story of Joanna, Paulo, and Martha is a reflection of how relationships can be complicated and how trust is one of the most important pillars in any bond. Joanna, facing the betrayal of her husband and her mother, learned the hard way that, while love and concern for others are valid, it is essential to put yourself first and preserve your own dignity. Paulo and Martha, on the other hand, paid the price for their selfish actions, destroying the trust and harmony they had once built. This story leads us to reflect, to what extent should we open our doors and hearts to others, even when it compromises our well-being? Where is the line between helping those we love and protecting our own happiness? Now, we'd like to know, what would you do in Joanna's place? How would you deal with a situation of betrayal within your own home? Leave your comment below, we want to know your opinion on what happened. Did you enjoy the story? Don't forget to like the video and share it with someone you think might relate to it. If you're not yet part of our community, subscribe now and activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos with intense stories like this one. If you've made it this far, congratulations for sticking with us until the end. Comment the word trust in the comments and show that you have the courage to reflect on these deep topics. Stay with us. Don't miss the next videos we have prepared for you. Life is full of choices, and each one can change everything. See you next time.